Now, here's Kay Murray and Jim Stallings on WAJR.
And you're tuned into the Talk of the Town, Morgantown AM with Kay and Jim on this Thursday. And today we're going to wrap up all the candidates for the West Virginia House of Delegates 44th District. We've had them on all week, giving you an opportunity to know more about them and some of the issues that we've brought forth. You're always welcome to bring something forth that you have on your mind as well. When we represent and go to vote next Tuesday, you'll know these candidates better. 304-296-0041. And good morning to my sidekick right over here, right across from me, Jim Stallings.
Good morning, and welcome everybody once again to one of our shows that gives you the opportunity to get to know your candidates. And in the studio this morning with us is a Republican candidate for House of Delegates 44th District, Kevin Patrick. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
Welcome to the program. Also joining us, the Democrat Steve Cook. Good morning, Steve.
Hi, Kay and Jim and Kevin. How are you?
Good morning.
Doing just fine. Thanks for joining us. Steve is on the phone with us today. Steve, let's start with you. Give us a little bit of background information on yourself, please.
Okay, well, I'm 68 years old. I'm married. I have 3 children, all of whom attended the public schools in Montague County, attended WVU. I have 5 grandchildren, 2 of whom are in the public school system. 1 is at WVU. I currently work as an associate professor with the Institute for Labor Studies and Research at WVU and have been in that capacity for a total of 25 years. Previous to that, I was the assistant business manager for the West Virginia Labor's District Council. I served as then Governor Rockefeller's labor commissioner for 2 years from 1977 to 1979. I'm not an incumbent, but I do have extensive political experience. In the 1980s and 1990s, I served 9 years in the House of Delegates, 4 years in the State Senate. More recently, I've served 10 years on the Montague County Board of Education.
All right. Thank you very much, Steve Cook. And Kevin Patrick, please tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Sure. My name is Kevin Patrick. I'm also running for House of Delegates. I'm a constitutionalist, which is a word we don't hear as much as we should these days. I'm recently married. I work in data entry as well as starting my own business this year. I was delegate to the RNC as well as both state conventions in 2008. I worked with a group called Mountaineers for Integrity and Responsibility during the degree scandal of 2008, and I helped draft the Board of Governors reform in that year with our current delegation.
Well, it sounds like you certainly have an interest in politics, so that probably is one of the reasons why you decided to run for this office. So give me a little bit more information about why you decided to make this decision to run for office.
Sure. Well, as I said, I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in the Constitution and our founders' principles and the Bill of Rights. I see that administration after administration, the Constitution's been trampled on. It's not a left-right issue. It's simply an American liberty versus tyranny issue.
What do you think you can do on the statewide level, if elected, to adhere to more constitutional principles?
Sure. Well, Thomas Jefferson's solution for a federal government which exceeds its constitutional authority in Article 1, Section 8 was something called nullification. The states created the federal government. They're our agents, not the other way around. If we disagree with what they're doing, their authority is unlawful. We can work in the state to nullify those acts.
All right, thank you. And Steve Cook, why have you decided to run for this seat?
Well, one of the reasons that I'm in this race is, quite frankly, there are 2 vacancies. There are 2 open spots. There are 2 incumbents running. One of the incumbents is running for the state senate, and Alex Shook decided not to seek re-election. I think my focus, if I'm fortunate enough to be re-elected, is going to be jobs, education, the environment, and roads. I kind of view myself as a person who, in the past, has been a voice for the voiceless.
And so what will your main focus be, or what issues do you think that you'll be most effective on in Charleston if elected? Steve.
Well, I think because of my previous experience, I can hit the ground running. While I've been out of the legislature for quite some time, frankly, I've served with about 25 or 30% of the people that are still there. So I think those relationships would be beneficial, and it'd be helpful in terms of being a successful advocate on behalf of the citizens of Montague County.
And what about you, Kevin? What do you plan to work on if elected, first and foremost?
Well, the issues that are facing us this season aren't Democrat-Republican issues. They're West Virginia issues. So, of course, jobs, environment, that sort of thing crosses party lines. My focus is sort of our relation as the states to the feds and the people to the state, and how we're going to balance that power carefully.
Well, let's just break some of those down if we could, and let's start with roads. We've asked each candidate in on the show this week because we know it is something that is facing our state, better roads. The Department of Highways have appeared before the legislature asking for help, more money, some ideas. Steve, have you thought of a way that we can generate more funds? And I talked to some people with the DOH yesterday. Something must be done, he says.
Well, I certainly agree that something needs to be done, Kay. At the same time, there is no magic bullet that's going to solve the problem. As you know, we have more miles of road to maintain per capita than any state in the nation. And frankly, due to increasing miles per gallon and other reasons, we currently have about 30% less for the Department of Highways than we've had in the past. Now, there are a number of possible solutions. You know, a lot of people talk about redirecting some of the lottery money toward roads. The lottery currently nets about $600 million a year. But if we're going to redirect it, then we have to say, what do we cut back in terms of education, senior citizen programs, promotion for tourism, because that's where the lottery money goes. But that's one option. There's a substantial rainy day fund where we might get funds. This year, as in past years, there has been a surplus that we've realized. One of the things that I think we also have to at least keep on the table is the possibility of a tax increase. The West Virginia legislature, Governor Manchin, have done an excellent job. There have been no tax increases since 1988 in terms of state taxes, and it may be that the legislature would have to look at that.
If it would come to you, Steve, for a tax increase, whether it would be on extra money for license where some of the money comes for the Department of Highways or gasoline taxes, would you favor that?
Well, it depends on what kind of increase you're talking about and what you're going to attach it to. I certainly would not take it off the table, Kay.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's disingenuous for people to say, I'm going to go to Charleston, I'm going to solve the current problem we have with the Department of Highways, but I absolutely will oppose any tax increases. That may be the only alternative available.
Thank you, Steve Cook and Kevin Patrick. Let's go to you now and talk more about roads and ideas that you might have and some of the things that I asked Steve about.
Sure. Well, I'm one of those disingenuous people, apparently, who have pledged not to raise taxes. I signed the Taxpayer Protection Pledge with Americans for Tax Reform. The state of West Virginia is a community, and we're going to have to operate like a family in this case, and we're going to have to do what families all over the nation have done, and that's going to be prioritized. There are things that we need, there are things that we want, and there are things that we like. We may have to cut things that we like and things that we want to provide things that we need. It's not popular, but the state may have to pull back on things that have traditionally been state services and turn those over to the market.
Any idea or specifics on what you would cut back as far as services?
Well, one of the things I would look at is a reform of the Promise Scholarship. There's no income requirement for who gets that. The pledge to stay in the state for 2 years is not legally binding, so we're not only hemorrhaging money, we're hemorrhaging human capital through that. So sort of the law of unintended consequences bit us in the butt there, and some reform to that system I think would save some money.
But the funding comes from these video lottery machines for the Promise Scholarship. Are you talking about using video lottery machine proceeds to the state for other areas other than the Promise Scholarship?
Or perhaps changing the way that we give money to Promise Scholarships right now.
Sure. I think that we have to look at the budget. We have to see where funds are going, and we have to prioritize. And if that means altering the state code, changing how lottery funds, giving out more of those permits, as long as we don't overinvest in that one small sector of the economy, I think we may have to look into those solutions.
Yeah, any thought for you, Steve, on that concerning Promise Scholarships?
Well, I would be opposed to eliminating the monies going to the Promise Scholarship at this point. I think when Governor Wise implemented that program and the legislature implemented it, it's been a tremendous boon for the state of West Virginia for higher education. And I think we should not eliminate or cut back on the Promise Scholarships. In fact, they probably should be increased.
Let's go to a caller. Steve, you're on with Steve Cook and Kevin Patrick. Go right ahead.
Good morning, Kay and Jim. Hey, one of the things that I have issue with or take issue with is anytime I hear somebody running for office use the term, we have a budget surplus year after year, but we may have to raise taxes. I understand that you may want to change some of the fees associated with driver's license or things associated directly with driving related to roads. But to me, a surplus doesn't mean anything other than the taxpayers overpaid to start with. And then to say we're going to raise it on top of that is what I think part of our problem is politically in this country right now.
All right, Steve Cook, you want to address that issue?
Well, one of the things that incumbents and the governor brag about is the fact that there has been a balanced budget in West Virginia forever. Well, that's because the Constitution mandates that we have a balanced budget. So I'm not sure that that's something to brag about. But when you have a surplus, that's because when the governor projects what the annual income will be when he's doing the budget projections, we have come in under those projections, and therefore we do have a surplus, whether it's $25 million or $50 million or $30 million or whatever it may be, and that money is then available for reallocation.
Kevin, did you want to respond to the caller's question as well? Or it wasn't really a question, it was more of a statement?
No, but I would agree with the statement. The state can't create wealth. They can only confiscate from the productive and redistribute. When we talk about a budget surplus, when we talk about balancing the budget, we did so nominally. We still have the huge OPEB debt. We have workers' comp debt. So although for this year, excluding certain things that don't balance the budget, we balance the budget. I think that's actually disingenuous. If we continue to leverage further earnings that we haven't made yet or revenue that we haven't gained, that will just create more OPEB, which is other post-employment benefit-like problems in the future. What
can the state of West Virginia do to encourage more hiring, more jobs, more creation? Yes, Kevin.
Well, in my mind, the state can't create wealth, obviously. So what they need to do is they can create an environment which is conducive to job creation. A job is created when a product or service is sold for more than it took to produce it. So we can have tax reform. We can have the reform for the way to operate more on par with surrounding states, to invite those businesses here, to bring the jobs of the next century here. The jobs of the last century are gone. So we need to look for those new century jobs.
All right, Steve Cook, what can again, we've been reminded several times this week that government can't create jobs, but government certainly can create an atmosphere for companies to create jobs. So what could the state do on that end?
Well, Jim, let me go back to the OPEB problem that Kevin mentioned, because I think it's important to understand that the other post-employee benefit liability that the state currently has is something that was created, if you will, when the federal government changed its accounting system and accounting requirements. So the legislature was operating in good faith for many, many years. And then the federal government said, and I think it was GASB, and I don't remember what that acronym stands for. They changed the accounting requirements, and therefore, county boards of education at this point, to the state government at this point, has to put those post-employee benefits as part of the balance sheet, the ledger sheet, if you will. And it's a huge unfunded liability, but it's not something that the legislature created or was ignoring. It's something that was imposed upon them by the federal government. In terms of creating jobs, I think that you need to have a favorable business climate. There certainly have to be tax incentives. During my 13 years in the legislature, I think I probably voted for every tax incentive, every job creation opportunity that was presented to the legislature. You have to do that. Now, we also have to keep in mind that these are difficult economic times. When you have an unemployment rate in the state of about 10%, even though here in Mon County it's only 5.7%, we're still competing with other states that are facing similar problems, and it's not there's no simple solution to the problem.
Kevin, do you have any follow-up at all?
Sure. Well, I think he's right that as far as good faith goes, but that's the downside of making legislation that works far into the future. You can't predict what the environment is going to be. So again, the law of unintended consequences, which oftentimes seems to be lacking.
Okay, thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Steve. We invite calls at 304-296-0041. A couple waiting. We'll go to those phone calls right after this break. Before we do that, everyone should enjoy mobile access to the Internet. And right now, AT&T is introducing 2 different smartphone plans. Just pick a plan that's right for you and enjoy the mobile Internet for as low as $15 a month. With pricing that low, you can enjoy the mobile web too.
Now more people can experience the benefits of the mobile Internet. AT&T has a price that won't break the bank. And again, prices as low as $15 a month on data plans. Just one more reason to choose AT&T.
Yeah, only AT&T offers you the affordable and flexible data plans that fit your needs as low as $15 a month.
Right now, AT&T has a Sony Ericsson Xperia X10 for just $99.99 after mail-in rebate, a smartphone with the Android operating system, and an 8.1 megapixel camera.
Visit an AT&T store today. Click on att.com/TNT data plans or call 1-866-MOBILITY. AT&T, rethink possible.
Pay $149.99, then after mail-in rebate, get a $50 AT&T promotions card. Customer must activate AT&T compatible device with AT&T voice service with 2-year commitment. $15 price for Data Plus includes 200 megabytes of data. Any usage overage will be charged $15 for each additional 200 megabytes used. See store or website for details.
Need a reason to get to Chuck's Furniture Mart and Mattress? How about 4? This Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, it's the Great 4-Day Sale with up to 36 months.